Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are looking into generative AI and how it affects critical thinking.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting. And to help me break this down, I've got, well, an expert here with me.
Of course, happy to be here. Always ready to dive into this stuff.
So this deep dive is going to be looking at some pretty fascinating research. It's from Carnegie Mellon University and Microsoft Research, and they looked into.
It's a good one, this research study. It goes like beyond just the hype. Like people are talking about generative AI, but what's really going on,
Right, exactly.
This study looks at knowledge workers, like people listening right now, and how they're actually using these AI tools in their
And
jobs.
it's not just using them. It's like, how is it changing how we think?
Yeah. Like, are we getting lazy? Is it making us better thinkers? It gets into some big questions.
Big questions for sure. So one of the things this study used was Bloom's taxonomy, which can sound a little jargony,
Yeah, it's like a fancy way of saying different levels of thinking.
right? And Bloom's taxonomy breaks it down into like 6 different categories, like a staircase of how our brains work.
Totally. It starts with remembering facts, then understanding them, then being able to use that knowledge. So, like, remembering is step one, then you got to understand it, then you can actually apply what you know.
Right. And then it goes even higher. You start to analyze information, then put different pieces together, and finally you get to evaluating it. Like, is this good info, bad info? How does it all connect?
Exactly. It's like climbing that staircase, getting more complex as you go up. And this study found that Gen AI tools, they impact every single step on those stairs.
Which is kind of wild to think about.
Oh, yeah. Like one example from the study, there was this teacher, she was using DALL-E to make a picture for her presentation.
Dude, Allie, that's the one that makes images from descriptions, right?
Yep, exactly. So she's making this image about hand washing, right? But the first one that came out, it was missing something super important.
Oh no, what was missing?
Soap dispensers. Can you believe it? Like, how do you wash your hands without soap?
Makes the whole image pointless.
Exactly. So she had to think critically, like, what's wrong with this picture? She tweaked her description, added the soap dispensers, and boom, much better image, way better presentation.
So in a way, the AI forced her to think more carefully, which actually improved the final product.
That's the thing. It's not always about AI making us lazy. Sometimes it pushes us to be more precise, more thoughtful about what we're asking for.
Right, but then there's the other side of the coin. Like, what if we get too reliant on these tools?
Yeah, there's the rub. The study found that Gen AI can make us super efficient, especially when it comes to gathering information and understanding it.
But,
But it can also make us less engaged with the actual thinking part of the task. Like, we might let the AI do too much of the heavy lifting.
right, it does a lot of the work, so we don't have to.
Exactly. There was this market researcher in the study who said that ChatGPT was way faster at gathering industry trends than the way they used to do it, reading reports and newsletters.
Yeah, that sounds like a time suck.
Totally.
Hmm.
But this person also said they had to really stop themselves from letting ChatGPT do all the thinking when they were creating new marketing campaigns.
So it's this balance between being efficient and staying mentally engaged. Fascinating.
Totally a balancing act.
Now, the research also uncovered something interesting about confidence, and I wouldn't have guessed this.
Ooh, lay it on me. What'd they find?
They found that the more confident someone was in the AI's ability,
Mm-hmm.
the less they actually engaged critically with the task at hand.
Wow, so they were just like, AI's got this. I don't even need to think.
Pretty much. One person even admitted they didn't put much thought into a task because they just assumed ChatGPT would nail it.
A lot of faith in technology there.
Right. But here's the flip side. They found that being confident in your own WN skills led to more critical thinking, even if it meant more work.
Interesting. So it's not just about trusting the AI, it's about trusting yourself, too.
Yeah, like believing you can figure things out on your own makes you more active and engaged in the process.
Makes sense. You're not just handing off the problem, you're in it, figuring it out.
So it's not as simple as AI makes us dumb or AI makes us smart, is it?
Definitely not. It's way more nuanced than that. What's really interesting is that generative AI is actually shifting what we focus on when we think critically.
Okay, so how is it changing our focus?
Well, because of the risk of AI hallucinations, that's when AI makes stuff up or gets things wrong.
Right, we can't take everything the AI says as gospel.
Exactly. So we have to spend more time verifying information, fact-checking, looking for bias, making sure it all adds up.
It's almost like instead of just gathering information, we're now spending more time being detectives, double-checking everything.
Great analogy. The researchers call this task stewardship. It's this idea that we need to be guiding the AI, monitoring it, making sure it's doing good work.
So we're not just users anymore, we're more like AI supervisors.
You got it. And that changes the whole game. Instead of just getting the information, we're verifying it, making sure it's on the right track, and then figuring out how to use it.
Wow, that's a pretty big shift in how we think about our work.
Absolutely. And it leads to some really interesting questions about the future. Like, if critical thinking is changing, what skills do we need to thrive in this new world?
Yeah. What skills do we need? I guess that's something we can unpack in part 2 of this deep dive.
Definitely. Can't wait to get into it.
Okay, so we've seen how generative AI is changing how we think critically. But what does this mean for us practically? Like, what skills do we need to actually thrive in this world where AI is doing more and more?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And the study actually gives us some good clues. They talk about becoming master verifiers.
Master verifiers. Okay, I like the sound of that, but what does that even mean?
It means we can't just take what AI gives us at face value. We got to get good at double checking, comparing different sources, and really watching out for bias.
Right, because as cool as these AI tools are, they're not perfect. They can make mistakes or give us misleading info.
Exactly. So being able to critically evaluate information is super important, especially when it comes from an AI. And it's not just about the facts themselves. We need to look at the logic, the reasoning behind what the AI is telling us.
So it's not just fact-checking, but also logic checking, making sure the AI's thought process makes sense.
You got it. And that brings us to another important skill, adaptability. This AI world is changing so fast, we got to be comfortable with constantly learning new things and adapting to new tools.
So our brains need to become more flexible, more ready to shift gears as AI keeps developing.
Exactly. Got to stay agile. Okay, so we've got verification and adaptability. What else?
Yeah, what other superpowers do we need in the Gen AI era?
Well, there's this thing called prompt engineering. Might sound a bit technical, but it's becoming super important.
Prompt engineering. Okay, break that down for me.
It's all about learning to talk to AI effectively. Like, how do you get the best results from these tools? You got to learn to craft the right prompts, the right instructions.
So it's like learning to speak AI, giving it the right commands to get what you want.
Exactly. You have to understand how AI thinks, how it processes information. Then you can tailor your input to get the output you want. Give it context, set limits, and keep tweaking your prompts based on what the AI gives back.
Sounds like a constant back and forth, a dance between human and machine.
That's a great way to put it. It's a collaboration. And the better we get at prompt engineering, the more we can unlock AI's potential and make it work for us.
Okay, so we've got verification, adaptability, and prompt engineering. Those are our 3 keys to success in this brave new AI world. But I gotta ask, are there any downsides? Any risks we should be aware of?
Of course, every powerful tool comes with potential risks if it's not used responsibly. One concern is that we become too reliant on Gen AI to the point where our own critical thinking skills start to weaken.
Right, so instead of AI making us smarter, it kind of makes us dumber because we're not using our brains as much.
Unfortunately, yeah, it's a real possibility. If we just hand everything over to AI, we might lose our ability to think critically and solve problems on our own.
Okay, so over-reliance is one risk. Anything else?
Another big one is bias. These AI tools are trained on tons of data, and that data can contain all sorts of biases that exist in society.
Right, like gender bias, racial bias, all that stuff.
Exactly. So we need to be super aware of this and carefully check the AI's output for any signs of bias. We
Yes.
can't just assume it's being fair and objective.
It's like we need to be detectives, constantly on the lookout for bias creeping into the AI's responses.
I like that. Bias detectives. We need to be vigilant.
Okay, so over-reliance and bias. Are there any other potential downsides we should be thinking about?
Yeah, one more is the risk of stifling creativity. If we rely too much on AI to generate ideas for us, what happens to our own creative spark? We got to make sure we're using AI to boost our creativity, not replace it.
So it's about finding that balance again, right? Using AI as a tool to help us be more creative, not letting it do all the creative thinking for us.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where AI and human intelligence work together, where each brings their own strengths to the table.
That's a great point. It's not about humans versus AI, it's about humans and AI.
Hmm.
So how do we make sure we're moving towards that ideal? How do we ensure we're using AI for good and not letting it take over? What can we do both as individuals and as a society?
Those are great questions, and ones we'll dig into in the final part of our deep dive. We'll explore strategies for navigating this new world and shaping a future where AI truly benefits everyone.
So we've talked about the skills we need to work well with Gen AI and the potential downsides.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about education. How does all this impact how we learn and teach?
It's huge. We can't just stick our heads in the sand and pretend AI isn't changing things. The traditional way of teaching, with all that emphasis on memorizing facts and formulas, it's gotta change.
Yeah, I mean, why spend all that time cramming when AI can access that info instantly?
Exactly. We need to focus on the things AI can't do well, like critical thinking, problem solving, working together, and making ethical decisions.
Those higher level skills, the ones that make us uniquely human.
Right. Those are the skills that are going to be in high demand in a world where AI is everywhere.
So instead of being scared of AI taking over classrooms, we should see it as a chance to revamp how we teach.
I love that. It's an opportunity. We need to prepare future generations to not just exist alongside AI, but to actually use it wisely and responsibly.
Yeah, to be in control of it
Yeah.
and to be ready to adapt as AI keeps evolving.
Exactly. Lifelong learning is key here. Okay, so zooming out a bit, what can we do, like as individuals and as a society, to ensure we're using this powerful technology for good?
Right, it's a big question. Where do we even start?
Well, first off, we got to stay informed. Listening to deep dives like this, trying out different Gen AI tools ourselves, and having open conversations about the impact of AI, all of that helps.
Yeah, it's like we're all on this journey together, figuring out this new world as we go. But what about people who are feeling overwhelmed or maybe even a little scared of AI? Any advice for them?
I'd say embrace your curiosity. Don't be afraid to experiment. Play around with some of those AI tools, see how they can help you in your work or your learning, and really think about the ethical questions they raise.
Yeah, it's easy to get intimidated, but ultimately, AI is a tool. We get to decide how we use it.
Absolutely. We have agency. We get to shape how AI is integrated into our lives. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Gen AI and critical thinking,
It's been quite a journey.
yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. And I hope everyone listening is walking away with a sense of, both the amazing possibilities and the big responsibilities that come with this technology.
It really makes you think. The relationship between humans and AI is constantly changing, and it's affecting how we work, learn, and even how we think.
It's a conversation that's just getting started, and I encourage everyone to keep exploring these issues, keep asking questions, and stay engaged.
That's a great takeaway. We're not just passive observers here. We can all be active participants in shaping the future of AI. So thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and that it's inspired you to keep thinking critically about AI and its role in our world. Until next time, keep those minds engaged.